Hi everyone! Welcome to week 1 of English 101. I am so excited to have you here. I wanted to go over just the assignments for this week to kind of get you started with the course. I hope that you did get a chance to watch the introduction video that I posted last week. And just so you know, the weeks in English 101 typically go from Monday to the following Saturday. So the assignments that you have are going to be between Monday and Saturday. Typically, week 1 is going to start a little earlier. So if you are one of those people that wants to get a bit ahead, you have that option. So the first assignment that we're going to have is an essay called A Definition, defining a concept. So we're going to talk about this a little bit more in depth in this video and kind of give you some tips just for getting started. And I wanted to also comment on the fact that our course is quite fast. We're going to complete 4 essays total. There are 8 weeks, so 2 weeks per essay. And if that sounds like it's fast for you, it is for me as well, and I understand that. So if you're sort of nervous about the workload or how you're going to keep up, please don't worry. We do these in pieces, and it's going to be just fine. So in the intro video, I did talk a little bit about the sort of basis for the course, but I wanted to reiterate a little bit about what rhetoric and composition is. So some of you in other courses may have heard of what's called the rhetorical situation, which here you can see a picture of Martin Luther King Jr. giving his I Have a Dream speech near the Washington Monument. And this is a good example of a rhetorical situation, and this is something that rhetoric teaches you to think about. So you've got the author, MLK Jr., the text, what he's saying, the audience who he's speaking to, the setting, and then why this rhetoric is taking place. When you think about writing, when you think about composition, you want to think about it in this way as well. So just as like when you're speaking and giving a speech in front of an audience, when you write, you want to think about the reader and your purpose for writing to them. How does, the context surrounding your writing affect how it's perceived? And then who are you as an author, and how does that affect how you write? So that's what we mean by rhetoric. Some of you may have heard of persuasive appeals like ethos, logos, and pathos. We're going to talk about those in a future essay. And we're also going to sort of look at composition and writing as what's called a recursive process, which, as you can see in this image here, it means it kind of goes in a circle. And keep in mind that sometimes these steps don't have to be linear. So maybe you start with, the middle of your essay, or maybe you start at the end. But we're going to do a lot of reading and a lot of writing and a lot of talking about how those steps in that process is unique to you and who you are as a student. So let's talk a little bit about your first essay assignment. In English 101, the goal is to get you to think and read critically. So really the course introduces you to the idea that your words have power and that the way that we use them, the way that we talk about them is important. So this first essay gets you to think about the words that you use and how you sort of conceptualize those ideas into writing. So the assignment sheet for this is on Blackboard. The basic assignment is, it says essay 3, it should say essay 1. You'll choose a concept, a principle, or a belief to explain. Define and explore why it's significant to you as a writer. Essentially, you're redefining or giving a personal definition for your concept. It's going to be about 3 to 4 pages. We're going to outline and draft this week. So during week 1, it says next week here because technically it's currently Friday, so next week. First, let's talk about what a concept is. When you think about concepts, these are words that we often use but rarely define. You might find them in the dictionary and think, oh, well, everybody knows what freedom is. But really, if you get down to it, we define it all differently. They're abstract. They can definitely be controversial. But a concept is not a thing you can point to. It's an idea. So some examples here to the left. Writer, student, beauty, American, what it means to be true. So I've really had students take this assignment and get pretty creative with it. I want you guys to think about concepts that apply to who you are as a person. So you could even redefine something like COVID, for example. What has that meant to you? When thinking about words like culture, what does that mean not only to who you are as a person, but the communities that you're a part of? So I want you to take some time to think about what words sort of define who you are, and could you use those to discuss? So when you're writing essay 1, our focus for this essay is your thesis statement. So I'm sure you've heard this before, but if you haven't, or if it's been a minute, a thesis statement is essentially 1 or 2 sentences at the end of your introduction that give your argument, your point, your sort of this is what I'm saying in this essay. This is really important to writing in English. I don't know really why we have this setup for writing, but it's what our sort of society as a whole and English-speaking communities expect. So your thesis statement needs what your essay is about, your point, and then your own opinion or your sort of angle about that topic. Excuse me. So it should be focused, it should be specific, and it should be debatable. And this is really important to think about when you're discussing concepts, because what I don't want is you writing your entire essay about how being a friend means that you support other people. Now, the problem with that is that most everyone would agree with you, and that would make for kind of a boring paper. And that doesn't really tell me what that word means to you. So, some examples. Say you chose the term self-care. I think it's quite a, timely phrase. We've been using the word self-care a lot as, a concept in the last few years. So say you start with that sort of formal definition of self-care. Self-care is taking care of yourself mentally and physically. So what's kind of wrong about this first one? I mean, if you think back, I had just said that you want your thesis to be specific, focused, and debatable. Now, reading this, I don't know if many people would disagree. I mean, well, yeah, self-care is taking care of yourself. Duh. And that's not what we want. But if you look at the one below, it says self-care is selfish. It's about being able to say no. Oh, that's interesting. I haven't really thought about self-care that way. But I guess that's kind of true. I mean, part of taking care of yourself is knowing when you have to set boundaries, especially now. I mean, we're under a lot of pressure from really a lot of different angles. And so maybe part of self-care is protecting yourself. It's kind of cool. That makes for a good thesis. And I would expect that the rest of your essay would talk about situations in which sometimes you have to say no and how that can be positive and that can be a part of self-care. The other things I wanted to touch on in this video are just navigating the apps that you guys are using. So I know we're in the middle of the semester. If you're taking other SWIC courses, you're probably familiar with Blackboard, but if you're not, this is what our Blackboard homepage looks like. The important parts are definitely this left-hand menu here. This is what Blackboard looks like when you look at it on your computer. If you're using your phone, I highly, highly, highly recommend using a laptop. If you're on a tablet, use the browser app. The Blackboard app is okay for maybe checking due dates or getting some basic announcements, but the desktop browser page is going to look really different. And when I am talking about where things are on Blackboard, I am looking at the desktop app. So some course info is at the top, a link to Microsoft Teams, which I'll go over in a second, any announcements, the syllabus, and the calendar for our course. So anything that's coming up due in the next week will show up on that calendar. So if you're one of those people where you're like, I want to see what's due, this week, then check that calendar. And then there's also a schedule in the syllabus. You've got weeks 1 through 8 is where I'm going to post specifically the assignments for each week. But then also if you want to get to a specific reading quiz or a specific discussion, you have those here. In English 101, we use what's called MLA format, which is the layout of your writing. Some of you may be familiar with it. If you're not, click on this MLA format link and it'll give you a sample template paper and also some resources. really, basically, you need a header in the top left that says your name, my name, the class, and the date. And then you just need your last name and page number at the top right. So everything should be Times New Roman, 12-point font, double spaced. But if you forget any of that, or if that's not familiar to you, this MLA format is where you'd like to click. So if you need to get a hold of me or check your grades, this last section is where you can do that. Just click that email button and it'll give you an option to send an email to me. The other application that you're going to need besides Blackboard and your email is Microsoft Teams. So hopefully if you're also taking other courses, your instructors have been using Teams and maybe you're already really familiar with it. But again, if you're not, just take some time to click around. Honestly, you're not going to hurt our Blackboard course. You're not going to do anything wrong. Just click and find where things are. If you click on this Microsoft Teams link, what it'll do, it'll pull up Microsoft Teams and ask you to sign in. You should have gotten an email from our course asking you to be added to the team. If you're using the desktop Teams, make sure that you switch your domain. So you're going to be immediately logged into the student domain, which is Southwestern Illinois College. What you're going to need to do is switch to the staff domain, which is staff.swic.edu. I don't know why it's set up this way. I'm sorry. I know it's annoying. But those two apps, Blackboard and Teams, are what you're going to need for English 101. So just as a final kind of reminder, your assignments for this week. Reading quiz 1. Got a few readings that'll help introduce you to essay 1. We've got a discussion board. The instructions for that are on Blackboard, but if you forget, they're also in the syllabus. And then you've got 2 assignments, 1 outline, and then your draft for essay 1. These assignments really do build on each other, so I encourage you to do them step by step. If you have questions, my email is here. That should actually say at swic.edu. Okay, but if you email my Gmail, I will get that too. Send me a chat via Teams. I get those on my phone and also online. And I'm just going to show you also our Blackboard course real quick to remind you about where all of these are. So when you log into Blackboard, you should see a list of your courses. When you select ours from your list, you're going to get into the course that looks like this. So to the left is that menu that I talked about. If you click week 1 through 8, you'll see a link to week 1 here. And this is, in my opinion, the easiest way to navigate through the assignments of our course. Click on week 1 and then just do this step by step. All right, click on the readings, take the reading quiz, do your discussion board post, read the assignment sheet, and then work on those assignments. I know that some of this may feel like you're doing it alone, but you are not. I'm going to respond to that reading quiz and make sure that you're doing okay. Everyone is expected to respond to other students in the discussion board. I will also be responding. So I want you to keep in mind that I am not just a robot behind the computer, but I am an actual person, and I'm going to be interacting with you and with your writing throughout this whole process. Okay? So good luck. I'm really excited to get to know you guys, and I will talk to you soon.